Hello, everyone. Today I wanted to talk about a place that's really special to some of the people who may be watching this channel, and it's a place known as Cragmont. Now, Cragmont is in Black Mountain, North Carolina, and on Black Mountain, or in that area, the Free Will Baptist denomination has a camp that is on Mount Allen, and what we do is we send our kids up there every year for a week-long retreat where they have daily devotional, worship time, things like that, where they can, get closer to God and fellowship with each other. And every year there's a theme. And today I wanted to talk about a theme we had one of the last times I was a counselor up there for a week. And that was the theme. It was called Not a Fan. I think the author of the book that we used as a guideline was Kyle Idleman. And it's a pretty good idea of that. We're not supposed to be lukewarm about the idea of being a Christian. We're supposed to be all in, and we're supposed to be dedicated, and we're supposed to be disciples and not just fans. My issue with the theme from that year was that I feel like we have lost the meaning of what it means to be a fan. The very word itself comes from a Latin word, fanaticus, that in English translated to a fanatic. And that Latin word actually meant inspired by God. And so if you use the word as it's originally supposed to be meant, and I've seen some pretty fanatic fans, to be a fan of somebody is to be pretty fanatical for it. So, it seems like a minor complaint, but I do think that the root of the word is where we should focus, is that we should be fanatical about our religion. And I know that word has some negative connotations to it, especially when you apply it to extremism around the world today. We see a lot of extremism on all sides, all around the spectrum. But from a Christian perspective, being like Christ is being fanatical. Christ was fanatical when he came in. Everywhere he went, there was some type of controversy for how he was doing something in a way that was unaccepted or unorthodox or had never been seen before. Day after day, the religious leaders of the area were bringing some type of challenge to Jesus to try to catch him and trip him up in a way that they could slander his name or throw him down, drag his name through the mud. But Jesus, though he was fanatical, it wasn't in a way that you think of that word today. It was in a way where you flip the whole system upside down, where you challenge the status quo. That is how I think Christians should be fanatical. They shouldn't be, no one's telling anybody to go and do anything illegal or violent or anything like that. What I'm just calling for is for Christians to stand up for their values, for Christians to, walk the walk and talk the talk. It's easy to, be a nominal Christian, to sit on the sidelines and, have the banner over your head or this little tag off to the side that says, I'm Christian or something. But it's a much different thing to act like a Christian. And once you take on the role of acting like Christ, I don't think there's any way that you could be deemed anything other than a little bit fanatical. So the premise of the book is 100% accurate. And I think that is the point of that week at camp, is that, we're not supposed to be admirers of Jesus. We're not supposed to be someone who just thinks that Jesus was a good guy or that he had some great ideas. And we're actually supposed to be disciples. Now, discipleship is a very involved process. To be a disciple of someone meant that you literally followed them around all the time. You went where they went. You ate and drank what they ate and drank. You said some of the things they said. You interacted with the people they interacted with. Think of an apprenticeship. You had a master. You worked under the master to learn everything they did and to do things to the best of your ability the same way that your master did. And throughout a discipleship, you were conforming to that other person. You were becoming more and more like the individual that you were following. So to be a disciple isn't just to be an admirer of Jesus. It's not just to be a fan like you would be a fan of a baseball team or a fan of a video game you play or a movie that you like to watch. You know, me saying I'm a fan of the Avengers shouldn't mean the same thing of being a fan of Jesus. You know, I'm not going around mirroring my life around those Marvel movies, even though I do like them. I really enjoy watching those stories unfold. But when you look at my life, what you should see is a continual process of someone who becomes less and less consumed with who and my own selfish needs and desires and wants, and more involved in the process of becoming like Jesus. And you know, the only way to know how to become a disciple of Christ, I mean, he's not literally here in flesh and bones to follow, is, you know, one, to surround yourself with others who follow Christ, and you can parrot what they do. You can imitate those people who are maybe more along the journey than you are, and have maybe a better perspective of what Christ looked like. And the only way to know what Christ looked like is to, you know, read the Scripture. And if you're not reading the Scripture, then you're not going to have a complete image of who he was. You know, that's a very complicated idea in itself, to have the right context when you read the Scripture, to know God through, you know, not just reading the Scripture, but through prayer and some asking for revelation. You know, it takes some sacrifice. It takes some serious discipline and devotion to conform to the image of somebody else. You know, being a Christian isn't the easiest thing in the world. This morning, we had our staff meeting here at the church, and one of the names that was brought up in just general discussion was this guy named Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Now, Bonhoeffer was I think he was a Lutheran minister. He was a German citizen, and he was alive throughout World War I and World War II. And during World War II, he actually was, one of the things he did was he was sneaking Jews out of Germany using his role as a minister. They were lenient and let him travel more freely, the Nazis did. And another thing he was doing is he was taking correspondence from spies within Germany to the Allies. And as he was doing that, he ended up getting caught, and he was killed as a traitor after being in prison for a while. One of the books that Dietrich wrote was this book called The Cost of Discipleship. And in this book, he talks about the difference between cheap grace and this idea of costly grace. Now, being that grace is free, it would seem that it would be something easy to accept. But when you accept the grace that Christ gives us, it's really a call to living a hard life. You know, once you find that you have accepted the grace that God gives you, your life becomes way harder because you're held to a higher standard. You might find yourself taking the road less traveled because someone is in need on that road, and it doesn't benefit you as an individual. It benefits that other person, but you know, you're conforming to the identity of Christ, and you're putting others before yourself. So this thing that was given freely to you, it didn't cost you anything, could end up costing you more than you'll ever know. And in that way, grace does have a price. You know, it's given freely, but when you accept it, it changes you into the type of person that is willing to give it all. And I think that's truly what it means to be a fan or a fanatic, is to be a disciple. It means to conform your life to the life of that master that you choose to follow. To transform into little Christ is what it literally meant to be a Christian back in the day. when that word was coined, is they would call someone a Christian, and what they were saying is they were the little Christ all the way around. And that's what we're called to be today. We're not just called to be nice people or good, good guys and girls, or gentlemen, or polite, or any of those words that mean good. We're called to be something that's a little bit deeper than that. We're called to sacrifice. We're called to be selfless. We're called to do unto others. We're called to turn the other cheek. And that is a costly way to live. But, he did tell us to pick up the cross and carry it with him. And that doesn't sound like something that is pain-free. I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. If you see this, please know you're invited to our worship services tonight. We'll be going over, we have a youth service coming up on the 26th, and hope to see you there. We'll be practicing in our Family Life Center. And if you do have any prayer requests, please send a message to me or post it in the comment section. And as always, like, share, and subscribe. Have a good day.